Okay, hello and welcome to lesson 5, I believe, of building a WordPress theme. And this is a solo show at the moment, but it's still gonna be awesome. Don't worry. Okay, so today we're gonna get more into the nitty-gritty of certain tasks you're gonna need to do as you are building a WordPress theme. And a lot of these little tasks are part of customizing what we can for a WordPress theme, so still maintaining that integrity of the usual WordPress database, but these can also for sure be applied to more customized sites. We're going to start out by making a custom page template for the home page. So in my theme, so my WP Folio WordPress theme, very nice looking. However, I would like on my homepage not to have a sidebar for sure. I don't really want this home title showing, and I'd want this picture to be nice and big and to fade in. Oh no. God damn it. Okay, we're having some joining issues. Oh, what? One moment. Okay, it looks like Google changed some permissions things, but whatever. Okay, well, I'm going to keep talking, and me again if you can't. All right, well, hopefully that'll work, and I'm going to keep talking. So I would like this picture to be nice and big and kind of fade in and make a nice little impactful, like, ooh, beautiful dog painting effect. So I don't want every page to be like that. So this is where in WordPress and any kind of content management system, if you think to yourself, well, there is one that is not like the others, then that means you need to be doing some kind of customization. So for WordPress, for our purposes now, it's going to be a page. And right now we have this page called Home set as our front page or our home page. So what we want to do is create a custom page template for something called Home. And we could even call it, like we can call it home page. We could also think if we wanted some kind of, special featured page. Hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey.
All right, cool. I'm running a solo show right now, but it's pretty good. Cool. Okay, so quick recap. We're going to make a custom homepage template here. So right now, and anybody who's used WordPress, I'm sure you know, if you make a page, it's going to look like a page. And that's where WordPress I'll get clients all the time that are like, I don't want my site to look like WordPress. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because WordPress does not dictate what your site looks like. But people have this idea of WordPress themes and pages look like pages. It looks like a blog with this right. Oh, hold on. Why did this happen? 1 second.
I had it a couple times too. It got stuck on requesting.
Google Calendar was down today.
Yeah, that was apparently a really big deal.
Yeah, it was down for like a long time.
I actually did Google too. I saw that Hangouts was having issues around the country too at different points during the day.
Not good. That's pretty scary how messed up everybody's life gets when one company goes down. I mean, my life wasn't too messed up, but you never know. This is a good metaphor for choosing third-party tools in your website. So if you choose one tool and your entire website depends on it, and that tool goes down or is no longer maintained, then you may be in for a problem. So hopefully Alex can get in here. Let's see. Okay, well, I will continue here, hopefully. And we've got, okay, so custom page template. So essentially the way the WordPress template hierarchy works, because we've looked at that a little bit before as well, definitely. Over here, all of our files. So let me collapse this SAS stuff to kind of clean up what we're going on. What's going on here? So the WordPress template hierarchy. WordPress gets a URL request for the posts page. It's going to show us index.php. If it gets a request for an archive page or a category archive, it's going to choose archive PHP or category PHP. Are you able to invite anybody from this, Matt? You probably are not.
Let me see.
Oh, here it is. Okay, we're good. Internet's going slow today. I don't know. All right. So for page.php, the way I can make a custom page template, I can basically do. I'm gonna start. I could make it look however I want. I could completely start a command N new file, which let's actually do that just for an example. So I'll do command N new file, and then to make a custom page template, I can do page dash, and then it's going to be the name of the page template. And by default, WordPress, if you say page-contact.php, if there's a page named contact, then WordPress will automatically use this template for a contact page. But I'm going to make a page called page-home for now. Let's do, okay, I'm changing my mind about how I want to name this stuff. I'm going to call this page-featured. So this is going to be, the idea of this page is I want one big fat image that's really pretty and then a row of like all the featured images at the bottom. So I'm going to call this featured page. And this is this idea of a template here. The reason I'm not making this a homepage template is because I'm thinking, oh, as I'm building this, I'm like, oh, well, maybe users would want to use this template on other pages in the site too. So I'm going to do page-featured, and now they'll be able to select it as a template, whether or not it's their homepage or not. So I'll say page featured, and I'll command S to save. And so if I had a page actually named featured in the admin, then it would read off of this template. So I'll save. Awesome, awesome. And then let me try, let's do that as an example too. So I'll do a new page, and if I call it featured, and I publish it, and I view, it should be completely white, which it is. So page.featured PHP, because that's what I had in here. And it's not using WordPress at all because I have no content management happening in here. But of course, if I add all of my regular WordPress functions that are in page.php, then I can start with that template of page functionality. So usually when I do a feature or when I do a custom page template, I will Command-Shift-S, save as page.php and kind of duplicate it. But for now, I'll just copy all this. So I'm going to do Command-A, Command-C, back to page-featured, Command-V to paste, and then I'll save, and this should look like a normal page now, which it does. But now I can be editing all of the content and the markup in this page template only. I don't have to be using anything that's on. I can do whatever change I want, and it's not going to affect page.php. It's not going to affect any of my other pages. So my first step is I want to remove this sidebar. So I'm going to remove get sidebar, save. And then I definitely don't want comments. Erase those. And then I also have this happening here. So get template part, template content, content page. And this is where we've looked at a couple of times inside the template parts directory. It is including all these little content sections. So content-page is holding the rest of the markup for a page. So following the same idea as before, I can say content-page-featured. So I'm going to do the same philosophy, but I'm creating a new chunk for content. So I'm going to do, again, a little save as here, and I'll say page-featured. Like that. Page-featured and regular page. And they're the exact same thing now. But in order to use page-featured, I of course need to change, well, maybe of course, I don't know how obvious this is, page-featured here. So if you remember before, this template parts / content, comma, whatever, this is equivalent to the file path of this. Content-.php. So the function is looking for this file. So inside the template parts directory, and then content is the first part of the slug, or the first part of the file name, and then this dash is implied, and then page-featured, the second part, is going to be whatever's here. So if I call this page-blueberry, then this would need to be blueberry. Blueberry, that's how I spelled it. Okay, cool, so now it should work. Let's double check, and we'll say, well, first I'm going to delete this because I don't want my title there at all. And I'm going to start by, I'm just going to move my comment up here because I don't want to delete the entire thing. One quick thing to notice, this PHP did not turn blue, and that's because this is still being rendered because it's a server-side process. This is saying any HTML is commented out, but this, unless I go like that, or what? Why isn't that blue? That's weird. This is how you make comments in PHP, right? Okay, whatever. This would be still printed. So here we can look, save, and I should have no header now. If I do Command-Option-I, scope it out, I'll see up here that header is still being printed. So I still see my entry title because the PHP is rendering that, even though I've commented out the HTML around it. So just a little thing to note. But I'm going to keep that commented out for now because, you know, maybe I want to use it later. So next, let's take out this WP link pages. I don't want that in my featured thing. WP link pages, I really had no idea what that is until today. And apparently that's supposed to add some kind of link to other pages on the bottom of your site. I'm not sure when that's ever really used. So it's kind of like a previous next thing in between pages. We definitely want our edit post link, sure. So all of this otherwise looks good, except I still have my sidebar because I'm on contact. Or excuse me. I want to have some content in here now. So I'm going to edit page, editing my featured page. And then I could add some content in here just for demo. Use my little Ipsum tool. Let's just do a couple of paragraphs like that. And then let's say I wanted my big picture right on top of this nice doggy. I'm going to select full size, insert, update, and then view. Cool, looks good. So I still have my grid happening, however. So the next thing I need to do is take off my grid classes from the featured page here. So I'm going to get rid of all of these because this was creating the grid with my sidebar. We were defining, just to like review that for a second, we were defining full width on extra small screen, 9 of 12 on small size screen, and then 8 of 12 on a medium size screen and anything beyond that. And then delete that because I want everything to be on the same row. Okay, nice. So big, nice long text, kind of ugly, but I'm not really meant to have text there anyways. So next step, and this is something you're going to run into in WordPress a lot, whenever you're like, I want to target this image specifically. So do I like somehow hackily in CSS select it in order to make it bigger or whatever? Like ideally I want to target a class. Like I want to target this image specifically rather than saying, like page ID 49 space img. Like if I wrote a style, I'll just open up the site. Or actually, let's open up. There's a SAS partial called Posts and Pages. That's where I'm going to work here. So posts, and then I'm going to go to the very bottom, and I'm going to say featured page template. So if I was styling things on my local computer here and I was like, oh, I want to target this image specifically, well, I could totally just target page ID 49, and then I know inside here this, or even better, I could just target WP image 35. So that's a really bad strategy because this is the ID of the image, and if you changed an image that's in here, it's not going to have the same ID. So that's number one, a bad strategy. The other bad strategy is this is going to be completely different on whatever database, whatever image you're using. But also, like if you try to target post 49, again, the ID is going to be different. And even if I said, well, yeah, just IDs are a problem. You can't do that. So what we're going to do instead is create a, we're going to use the featured image part of WordPress rather than relying on something in the content editor. Basically, as a rule of thumb, if you're using the content editor, you can never target a specific thing in the content editor without a shortcode or some kind of other customization. So you need to look at the content editor, which by content editor I mean this big blob of stuff. If I want to target, as a developer, if I want to target something very specific in here, just forget about it. You can't do that. You can't safely do that. Otherwise, you're going to need to require whoever's editing this to write some kind of markup in here, or you're going to need to write weird CSS selectors. Not a good idea. So instead, we want to think about what other fields we have on this page that are available to us. So if I want to target an image, like the point of this page template is to have a big, gigantic, beautiful image. So rather than having them put that image in here, where I have no control over it, or I can't target it directly, I can have them add that image here to set featured image. So now I know I can target the featured image on this page. And we're going to get to that in a second. So let's update, and then I'll view, and of course I'm not going to have any image here because there's nothing in my featured template that says to display this image. However, I still am faced with the issue of how do I target, well, I got to put the featured image on there. Actually, let me do that first, and then I'll get to this other thing. So content page dash featured, and then I'm going to do right above the content, I'll use the function the post thumbnail, and then I have two options for size and then for attributes. So for size, I'm going to say large. And I know that this is a size because I've memorized it. But if we go to the post thumbnail, oh, let me back up a step here. I always do this. I started typing the post, and I was like, oh, there it is. You probably will not get this in your Sublime because I have a plugin that does this. WordPress, I don't know, WordPress functions, documentation, autocomplete plugin thing. I don't know what it is. I'll post a link to it, though, so someone can diligently remind me about that. Hint, hint. Okay, so we're going to post thumbnail. And this is kind of a good tool as well to teach you a little bit about what the functions do. So like the content, for example, or the title, I usually just write the title. I know this in here has a bunch of stuff in it, but that's underscores being best practice. So I usually just do the title. Okay. I usually just do the title, but now I see like, oh wow, there are these options here. So I should probably look up what those are before I just blindly use this function. So this is a nice shortcut thing sometimes. It's also annoying sometimes because it's like a lot of stuff. If we look up the post thumbnail, we're going to get this cryptic new developer documentation from WordPress. I don't know why this isn't the codex anymore. So we have size and then attributes. So query string of array of attributes, not sure what that means yet. Size, optional, image size to use, accepts any valid image size or array. Okay. Also, not sure what that means. So then I could start looking up like WordPress image sizes. Add image size. I'm just going through the motions of Googling here a little bit. So, well, we could also say default WordPress image sizes. And then I'm just going to do this. So default WordPress image sizes. Here we go. Thumbnail sizes. Thumbnail, medium, large, and full. So we're going to do a large resolution for now. So I'm just going to do one attribute. We're going to add, let's just do large for now. Yeah, like that. And then I'll refresh, and I should see my post thumbnail. So WordPress is like, bam, let me put all this stuff out there for you. And if I look in here, I'm going to see a whole bunch of markup, notably responsive images, which is cool. WordPress has that now. I have classes, though. I still have those classes. So WP post image looks good. I still want to target this specifically. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you two ways to do this, and then one is better than the other one. So one way, which we're going to need to do anyways, is that whenever we're using a custom page template, we can have the page template have a class up here. And we didn't officially register our page template, we just kind of just duplicated it, and it's reading for a page called featured. But if I had a page called home, I would not be able to use this template because it's only for featured things based on the slug here, so this featured part. So what I'm going to do is up here, I can give it a little template name comment, similarly to how template or how the style.css comments work. I'm going to say template name. So in style.css it says theme name. And yeah, in style.css it says theme name, and WordPress looks for that specifically. Same with this template. Anytime it sees template name, it knows it's supposed to register it as a custom page template. So save and then refresh. I don't have it defined here yet, but if I say edit page and then say featured artworks, say update, and then view page. Now up here, you'll see I have this template, page featured. So that's a little class I can use in my CSS to target this this specific page or this specific image. So I could now say page-template-page featured, you know, space dot WP post image. That's still gross, definitely. So what we're going to do is use that thumbnail attribute parameter, the thumbnail attribute, or let's see, the post thumbnail, and then this attributes parameter, wherever it was, to add a class of our own to this thumbnail. And this is where we can do that. So you can also give post thumbnails your own class instead of it. Okay. So I'm going to say the post thumbnail. Cool. Ours says large. And what we're going to do here, what this parameter does, this is kind of like getting like hooking into the post thumbnail function and saying, hey, add this class as well. And we did this with the body class a while ago too, to add that is mobile body class, I think. So we're going to add this array in here. And array syntax in PHP is super weird. It's unfortunately something to just get used to and use your syntax highlighting to help you out. So comma, paste. Okay, but the structure array, like an array would usually look something like this. And you'd have like a few different entries. So the idea of an array is that it's a big list. You close it like that. This is only one value, so it's kind of in line there. So it's just one. Got it. Put in your 10,000 hours. So we're going to call this WPF-featured. I guess featured image. Featured page. Whoa, that's long. That's fine. Featured page image. That's really long, but it's going to be okay for now. So I didn't want to just call it featured image because there are featured images in a lot of parts of the site. So I wanted to make it more specific to this page. I think this will be fine. It'll be fine. So now if we refresh and I look in here, now I can see I have my WPF featured image class is showing up. So that's really the crux of how you got to think about WordPress. Is you, instead of just adding a class to HTML, you have to go through this whole gigantic process of finding the appropriate way to do it. Like there's really a right way to use WordPress and a not using WordPress but using WordPress way. So basically, like a lot of people when they do WordPress development, they develop around WordPress. Like it's an inconvenience, which it definitely is, to do this small thing the right way. Like I also could have done, so like I could have styled the image based on, I could have targeted the image based on that, what I showed before, where you could do like page template, featured page, space, .wp post image, or I could have said like .featured image container, another really long class name, and then wrapped it like this. And I still could totally do that if I needed some kind of styling outside of that. But I might keep that in there. No. This would be like 100% the correct way to add a class to an image, to like a specific post image. It'll take a lot of building of WordPress vocabulary to get there. But anyways, now that we have that, we can target this image specifically in the best practice way. So I'm going to Command-C this, and then I started a section in Posts and Pages in my SAS file here for my featured page template. And so I'm going to start by styling this, and there you go, and I'm going to make sure my SAS compiler is running, which it is. And then I'm going to add a, well, first I'm going to try this out in the inspector, just to make sure I'm getting the right thing going on here. So I'm going to say width 100% on nothing, apparently. Here. So right now I have max width 100%. And usually you always want to keep it max width 100% because images can be really, like you might have, like if you added IMG, if you added width 100% to all images, you're going to run into a problem like this. I did digitize. Did I show? I don't think I showed this to you guys yet. Yeah, it is I digitize, I think. Someday someone's going to know this company and that I make fun of their site and it'll get back to me. But right now, it still works. Okay, pay attention to these little icons here very carefully. So they have, if we do an inspection, and I look at their styles on images, somewhere, well, maybe not there, but somewhere they have a width 100%. It's like these guys. So I look at this little image, IMG-responsive. That is actually a Bootstrap class, I think. And IMG max width 100%. Okay, so that looks fine. But when I get smaller and smaller, so it's okay so far. Whoa! What happened? So it looks like somebody was styling with some awkward IDs and was a little bit sloppy about it. So this is what can happen if you're not careful about this 100% versus max width 100%. because right now this image is doing exactly what the site is saying, but what they want is this, not this. So with this img.img responsive, maybe they were trying to target another image in this section, like the placeholder images that aren't loading. But instead, they're targeting all images with the img responsive class. So danger. But for us right now, we want definitely to have this image always be 100% width, and we know it's going to be a large image because we gave it that size. Nice. So to do that, we can just say width, whoops, width 100%. Save. Fresh. A nice little doggy. Shaking around. Looks great. Perfect. So come far away. And now I want to have this fade in. This is going to introduce a large process, but hopefully it won't go wrong. We need to do that with JavaScript. And what we want to do is say when the image has loaded on the page, change some style about it to display. So with JavaScript, you're always acting on something that you're always performing an action based on some other action. So in this case, it's like the image loaded, make it show up. We could just have it fade in by default, but we want to make sure it's loaded first. Otherwise, you're gonna, like, if you've ever seen like loading a big, huge image and it's like kind of creeping down the page and it's like fading in as it's like creeping down and it's super ugly. So you want to make sure the image is loaded, and then you can have this nice smooth fade in once it's all the way there. And that's something we can do with a little bit of JavaScript. And let's go back to, hold on one second actually. I'm going to close your eyes. Actually, I'm going to move this. So I'm getting the file I wrote before out of the trash because I want to not spend that long making typos. Script. Okay, nice. Okay, so first step is we need to create our own JavaScript file. There are a few. This is something I'm not entirely sure why it's not included in underscores. In JS, in our JS folder, are some JavaScript files. That's where ours is going to go. Right now, there's Customizer, which is the options area in WordPress, navigation, apparently handles the toggling navigation, skip link focus. Okay, these are accessibility things. In underscores, it looks great. We just want something to write a little bit of jQuery in. So I'm going to right-click, new file, and I'll say Command-S, scripts.js. Not scripts, rather scripts.js. Enter. Okay, and let's put a little console.log in here. See if this is working. So console.log means log something to the console, believe it or not. So the console is the little kind of playground inside of a browser. So here, if I inspect and I click console up here, this is my console. So I could say alert, hi, give me an alert. So that could place, just like in this elements section with the CSS and the HTML here, I can play around. I can do that with JavaScript here as well. So a lot of times for debugging, people will use console.log to print out a little test message to see if something worked. And so that's what we're going to do to make sure our file loaded. And it will not load because we did not include it anywhere within WordPress. The first step to do that will be to enqueue it in our functions.php. So inside functions.php, in our functions.php, we have this WP Folio scripts function. This is a pretty ubiquitous method for, ubiquitous, what am I looking for? Way to load scripts is to have some kind of scripts function, and then you hook it into this action here. So remember to review like actions versus filters. Action means you're hooking into some WordPress function that always runs, So WP enqueue scripts runs every time a WordPress request anything is made. And you're saying, when you run that, I also want you to run my function, which is this. And I could put something dumb in here if I wanted to, but that would be silly. So, like, my point is, you can put anything in here. But you want to keep it to scripts because that's the intention of our function. And because somebody has already been including scripts, I am going to copy and paste what they did. So I'll Command-C, Command-V. And then instead of wp-folio-navigation, I'll say wp-folio/scripts. A template directory URI, that is getting the absolute file path of my WordPress theme. Always need to use this because your URL is probably going to change at some point as you put things on different servers or move your site. And so I'm going into /js/navigation.js. So rather than navigation, I'm going to put screw-ups. This array, we're going to get back to in a second. This is a version number. Yep, I'll just leave that there. You could change it to, I don't know, today's date is the idea. There are things that will automate that for you. It's for the purpose of caching. I'm not sure. I don't think versions in this way actually do that much for caching anymore. Not exactly sure. But this we're going to get back to. This is for dependencies. This means include in the footer. So we definitely want to do that. So WP-folio script, good. Now I'll refresh and I should see my hello class. And I should also see it enqueued in the footer. I hope. Scripts.js. Yay! Great. The next step is we want to include jQuery. Oh wait, I was going to do an example of not having jQuery, but I just gave it away. So we need to include jQuery because jQuery is a JavaScript library that we're going to be using functions from. And if we don't include the library, then we're not going to be able to use any of the stuff it provides, of course. So you could include, there's a couple ways you could, there are 3 ways you could do it. You could download your own version of jQuery. So let's go find that. So if we look up jQuery, not jQuery UI. This. Of jQuery. So, oh, download jQuery. Perfect. Of course, when you click download, nothing downloads. So I could download the actual jQuery file and drag that into my JavaScript folder and enqueue it in the exact same way as my scripts file. I could do that. I could also include it from a what we call CDN. So a CDN is a content delivery network. It's some server out there that is built in order to serve up files like jQuery. I'm also not going to, that's what I would do in a custom website if I were making it. Instead, and there's an argument for either way, for sure. It depends who you talk to. I'm going to use native jQuery, like excuse me, not the native jQuery, but the jQuery that is included in WordPress. So WordPress has a whole bunch of JavaScript going on. It includes this jQuery, and it's always compatible with the version of WordPress you're using. So for example, if you are super cutting edge and you're like, oh my gosh, there's this jQuery 8 alpha out. I really want to use it on my website. WordPress itself may, well, you know what? It doesn't make a difference as long as your website supports jQuery 8 alpha. But for theme development, which is what we're doing, we're building like a WordPress theme we want to submit to something. And I can expand on that little thought tangent I went on if anybody wants to later. jQuery for WordPress theme development, so something that's by the books for WordPress, we're going to use the jQuery that's included in WordPress. And we're going to do that by enqueue script just jQuery, because WordPress knows all of this other stuff about jQuery, I think. That should work. I think that's all we need. Oh, well, yes. Okay, Alex, you had this question before about registering scripts. This jQuery here is a script that has already been registered with WordPress. So sometimes you'll see, I think themes, they'll do like WP register script jQuery, and then they'll have all of this other information there as well. That is you could do it that way, but then you'd register it and then you'd also include it and queue it, and it's kind of redundant. But this is a good example of where jQuery has already been registered in WordPress somewhere, so we're including it here. So this type of information is somewhere in WordPress core, but for jQuery. We could probably go sort through and find it if we wanted to, but it's not really that fun to do. So,
is it best practice to work with the existing version of jQuery that comes with WordPress, or should we deregister and then queue like a different version?
Yeah, I think it's doesn't make a difference. It's
Okay.
best practice. People used to be all about the CDN thing, and because the idea of using jQuery from a CDN or from Google CDN, for example, which is really common, the idea is that it would be cached in a browser already, so it would load faster. I've heard arguments. I've heard people say that doesn't matter, and then other people are like, yeah, you should do it that way. I do it that way. I load it from a CDN.
Okay.
I might not do that in future sites though. I'm changing my mind about it potentially. So either way, I guess, is my answer. But if you wanted to submit a theme, though, or something that's perfectly by WordPress standards, you would definitely need to use WordPress's jQuery. I would say if you're talking 100% best practice, it would be to use WordPress's jQuery. So yeah, maybe I'll start doing that now too. But you're going to see why it's annoying in a second. Let's make sure this is loading first. jQuery. Well, the other thing is it loads jQuery in the header. That's another reason why people don't use it up there. Yes, it definitely is another reason why. So WordPress loads jQuery in the header. It also loads jQuery migrate, which okay, let me eat my words a little bit. This is the 100% best practice way to do it, but if you're doing a custom site, you might want to use a more modern version of jQuery first. Second, you don't need this jQuery migrate probably, and I bet this is a chunky file. Maybe. Oh, no, that's really small. So, but another script request you don't need that WordPress is going to put there automatically. So, yeah, one of those things, it's such a nominal, or kind of trivial, I guess. But good to think about. Good to think about all that stuff. For our theme, we are going to include it this way. Other annoying part about this, though. So let's just do something silly. And we'll say body dot CSS font family wingdings. I don't know if this is even how you write wingdings anymore. So, $sign is not a function, not defined, blah, blah, blah. This is what you're always going to get with WordPress jQuery because you have to call jQuery in a little bit of a different way. And I always just reference another page that uses jQuery, or another file. So Customizer does use jQuery, and you have to call it as this closure. It's a very complicated JavaScript nuance. But the point here is that you have to open up jQuery a different way in order to use a $sign. I think if we did this, yeah, that worked. So I guess I don't have wingdings, but I could say career. So that worked. Because the $sign is an alias for jQuery, because you don't want to have to write jQuery all over your document. That's super annoying. So jQuery has this $sign as an alias, but depending on how you're queuing jQuery, or I'm not actually sure why. I feel like I've been saying this every class, every 10 minutes now. I'm like, well, I'm not actually sure what that is, but it's true. I'm not sure what causes you to need to call the $sign in a different way. So I'll have to look that up. But we want to use this $sign for sure. So we need to wrap it in a closure, which means call a function after a function, but send that to the function. Something along those lines. There's someone out there that's explained it really well. But for now, this is my strategy at the current time, is to copy it from something So the top and bottom here. And then make sure your syntax looks like this. These spaces don't matter if they space things out a lot. That's fine. But for WordPress jQuery, so WP jQuery, have to open it like this. Otherwise, you could just open a document ready or like a regular jQuery looking thing. But now I'll be able to use the $sign. Yes, cool. So that's still working. Sweet. Okay, so now for the actual JavaScript to write in here. We're going to start with a document.ready. So in jQuery, usually when you're writing jQuery JavaScript, this is usually what you would start with, and you wouldn't need either of these. You just start with this document.ready function. And that means when the documents, when all of the DOM tree has loaded. So when all of the elements are on the page and have rendered. That doesn't necessarily mean all the style sheets have loaded or all the images have loaded, but that means like all of the HTML for that page is accounted for, or like the browser's ready for it. So we're going to say function. Syntax, super strange and hard to get used to, just how it is. But essentially in JavaScript, in jQuery and JavaScript in general, you have a lot of functions within functions. So here, this looks similar to what we saw with get template part, for example. Like there's the function name, parentheses, a parameter, comma, another parameter, and parentheses, semicolon. Cool, that's super great. Why can't JavaScript look like that? Because the idea of JavaScript is that parameters are many times actions. They are functions. So because the JavaScript is this like cause and effect language, or it's cause and effect process. So it's like, oh, you did something? My job is to do something because you did something. So this is saying document's ready. What do you want me to do when it's ready? So we have to give it a function. CSS, the function, is just 2 parameters. So body.css is just the name of the CSS rule and the value of the rule. Other ones you'll see are not quite as simple. So, and this, let's undo this. So this should all be set still. So what we want to do is fade in this image when the image has loaded. This is turned into a little bit of a complicated example, but I think it's a useful thing, so I'm going to still go through it. All right, where was I? Okay. Okay, so in order to fade something in, it needs to be hidden before we can fade it in. And we're going to hide and show it using opacity, a CSS rule for opacity, rather than hide and show. So one way I could do this immediately to make this work, I'm going to inspect, and I'm going to remember what my class is called, which is WPF featured page image. Wow, that's a mouthful. We'll say WPF featured page image, and then honestly, I can do this. There is a jQuery function for fade in, and this would say 500, so it's going to say when the document's ready, fade in WPF featured page image in half a second. So these are milliseconds, 500 milliseconds. So I'll save and refresh, and nothing works because, oh, well, duh. Oh my gosh. I just told myself why this wouldn't work. Nothing works because it's already faded in. It's already here. So I can't fade something in that's already there. So I said fade out, for example. Oh, there we go. Faded out really nicely there. Let's make it a little more aggressive. Very pretty. So I want the opposite of that. So in order to fade out, or to fade in, I need to hide the image to start. So let's take a look at here. And then this would be using the display none tactic. So very nice. However, I want to show you why this is a problem. Okay, so watch carefully. I have my content, do a major jump there. This will drive you insane in your web development career as you try to fade things, because everything needs to fade, of course. This will drive you insane. So I'm going to stop explaining absolutely everything and just show you the right way to do it here. We're going to do this with opacity 0. So the reason that jumps is because this element, whenever you use a display none, the element, the HTML is just like completely ignoring the element. And so when you fade it in, then you say, hey, the element's now here, and all the stuff's going to jump down because it's accounting for the element coming into that space. So if we use opacity, the image is still going to be there, but it's going to have opacity 0. So if I do an inspect, and I find this here, I see it says opacity 0. I could give it opacity 1, and then it'll be there. So rather than fading in or out with our JavaScript, I want to change the opacity. And I can do that with animate, with an animate function. So I'm going to say animate, and then we're going to use some more brackets, of course. Oh, sorry, this is else. Let me quit Slack for a minute. Animate, and then opacity. So similar to how that thumbnail function had an array, this is a little object in JavaScript. That's sort of the same thing as an array, but we have this value, or the type of content, and then opacity, and we're going to say 1, and then fade in 1500. Refresh. Beautiful. Much nicer. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys through the journey I went on while I was doing this. And if I refresh the page, oh, I guess it keeps working. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're going to leave this for now. And then if there's time afterwards, I'm going to come back and show about loading, making sure the image is loaded. So this is a nicely fading in opacity. The way I did it before was trying to detect when the image was loaded, and then I ran into some other interesting problems. But I think it's more important that we get to the featured images, or the featured posts part of this. So this is a working fading image. Let's leave it. Don't touch it until it's a problem. Okay, page featured, got it. Okay, so in order to feature a few different posts, I want to select those posts. So there's a couple of ways, well, there's always a million ways to do something, but in WordPress there are two main options for differentiating posts from each other, and those can be categories and tags. And if you're building a custom site, you could do some kind of custom taxonomy or custom post type. But for categories, or for this here, we're going to use a tag. And so what we want to do is add a tag called featured, to every image we want to display down here. So I'm going to, and I did this already, in my dashboard, all posts. I believe I did these couple, so quick edit. I had added a tag called featured. I could also add a category called featured if I wanted to. And then I feature here. So these two, let's put nice painting also. And that is featured. This little quick edit is kind of useful sometimes. I feel like it's pretty hidden under there. But only really for changing categories, tags, and other stuff. So update. Okay, so now I have these featured images, or featured posts. And I want those to display in the footer of my featured page, which I have to get back to. Or you know what I can do? I can just edit page here, and I'll change this to featured arcs. Okay. Oh wow, got a couple of these guys. So I just applied this template to a different page, and that page, my featured page, shows the thumbnail by default, not this image. So they both had faded in, and I only want one. Okay. New page. What? gosh. Hold on, guys. Let's stay here. I don't want to keep messing with this. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to look into doing a WP query, a loop, so kind of a custom loop outside of the regular loop. So inside my page dash featured, I'm not going to be in content page featured. This is my main content. This is what's inside of the loop. This is going to be printing out for each post or for each set of content that's returned. So even though this is a page, while the post, WordPress considers anytime there's like data sent from something a post. And so this is getting the data for every piece of content that's relevant for that page. I could either put this loop inside of here. So I guess I could put it in this one, but I'm going to do this outside of my main loop. I'm going to put another loop in. So let's open up some PHP here. I'm going to say show featured, show posts tagged featured. Okay. And so we could, like when we're thinking about the loop is the idea of asking WordPress for something and it returns everything of that type. So we don't want to, like one thing we could do is say, give me all posts, and then inside of that loop, we could say like if the post has the tag featured, show it here. But before we do that, we can give WordPress instead of doing that, we can give WordPress instructions about which posts to get to show. So we're going to say get posts tagged with featured, and we can do this with the WP query object. So if we look up WP query here, so the loop. So the query equals new WP query stuff. So WP query is what a post is. It's kind of like the whole post object. And we can say, like here's an example. Here, so we see this array thing again. Like right now, we can copy this whole thing right here. And this gives us access to the array or tags. This will get us all posts with the tag cooking. And we want to get something with the tag featured. So we'll write this out just for fun. And I'm going to put this inside a variable called featured. No, lowercase, featured. And I'll say new, or yeah, we can do that. New WP underscore query. And watch what happens. This is an example of how obnoxious this autocomplete thing is sometimes. So I say new WP query. And if I press enter, whoa, it gives me really a lot of arguments here. These are all the options you have for filtering a post. So that's crazy. Not all of those. I do not need all of those. So well, let's actually, okay, let's do, yeah. And then we can say array inside of here. And then inside this array will be our parameters. So I'm going to use tag. And then I'll say featured, like that. So what I'm saying, I'm calling this WP query function, and I'm saying get things with the tag of featured. Now, this WP query is basically the set of instructions. So it's like this knows this is all the posts, but I'm tossing this into a variable. So it's not going to do anything until I do something with that variable. So I'm going to use that inside of a query here. I need to use that inside of a loop. So I'll say while have posts, and I can say featured. So this says while this query has posts, again follow this query and get those posts. Get the data for those posts, and then I'll end while. So that's ending my while loop. And now every time I put code in here, it's going to do that for each one of the other posts, or each one of the posts with the tag featured. So I can say, like, if we just do a little test and say echo hi there, like that, I should get, and I'll put a little BR just so you can see, I should get, what was it, 3 or 4 hi there's. Nice. So that's for each of my featured posts. And then, like, of course, I want to use my WordPress code in here to get actual information from the database. So I can say the title. And now I see all my actual titles. And I believe the title has the 2 parameters are the before part and then after. Writing PHP with or HTML within PHP, which is kind of bizarre. But that's how this function works. Of course, another way to write this would be if I was outside of PHP, I could have h1, but I would need to be inside of the loop. So it would be, I can close my PHP tag, and I'll make sure I open it here. And then I could say h1 tab, and then I need to open PHP. Now I could say the title. And I'll get the same thing. Okay. So this one was, so this is the HTML version. Like that. So it's the same exact thing, but this is like the WordPress way to do it versus here. Whew. And then after this, like once you have this loop, and this is usually the hardest part when you're deciding, when you're getting this loop to work, or getting the right posts that you're looking for, or like ordered the right way, lots of different things that'll be a challenge there. Anyways, that's pretty dense stuff, and I'm gonna leave it there right now. Do you guys have anything you can ask me for clarification? I don't want to keep getting into this hole too much, but or any like specific requests about things? Good.
I'm good.
What about this? Yeah.
I think so.
Matt, how do you feel about the loop? Matt, it's kind of weird.
I get the loop.
Yeah?
I've seen it before. I've never really
Yeah.
played too much with it, though.
Yeah, that's good. It's so crazy when I'm describing this stuff, especially syntax. Like, I look at this and I'm like, oh my god, like, look at this. This is so weird. If you've never seen PHP like this before, and even if you have seen PHP, anything, it's just like, I don't know. It makes me scared. But anyway, it's cool. Alrighty. Well, I'll stop the broadcast here. And, okay, goodbye, broadcast.